Today we're going to explore how attachment styles can help you get your ex back. And if you stick around until the end of this video, I'm going to teach you exactly why it's important to look at your ex's childhood to understand what's going on in their frame of mind. But first, if you haven't already, make sure you take our Ex Recovery Chances quiz. If you're anything like a lot of the people watching this video, you may be considering getting an ex back. But before you do so, you first must understand what kind of chance you have of getting them back. So if you're interested in taking this quiz, we've put together a special quiz that's designed to tell you what kind of chance you have of getting them back. All you have to do if you want to take it is simply look in the description link below and click on the link you see there. So let's start with the most basic question. What is the attachment style theory? Well, simply put, attachment theory is a psychological model attempting to describe the dynamics of long-term and short-term interpersonal relationships between humans. Now, there are many different types of attachment styles, but today we're going to only focus on 4. The secure attachment, the anxious attachment, the avoidant attachment, and the disorganized attachment. So let's take a minute and define what each of these attachment styles is and looks like. You are considered to have a secure attachment if you're comfortable with intimacy, you're not worried about rejection, or even preoccupied with the relationship. You're considered to have an anxious attachment if you have a greater need for intimacy and emotional closeness. It means you require frequent reassurance from your partner that they love you and that everything is great between the two of you. Avoidant attachment types are extremely independent, self-directed, and often uncomfortable with intimacy. They're commitment phobes and experts at rationalizing their way out of any intimate situation. Now, I actually don't want to define the disorganized attachments because I'm going to do that a little bit later because it requires a little bit of priming. But first things first, let's look at the 3 attachments that I did define and talk about how they manifest themselves in relationships with your ex. Now, if you're anything like me and you're dealing with the attachment style theories, it can become a little confusing and there's a bit of an information overload. So allow me to kind of make it a little bit simpler by putting it in a way that you can understand with your ex. Okay, let's say that you are in a relationship with your ex again and they haven't broken up with you. You've been dating for about 2 years and you decide to go out with your friends. You know, you just want to go out and have fun, maybe meet some new people, have a few drinks with the girls, and everything's all good. Well, let's say that your ex has a secure attachment. When you come home, they'll simply ask you, hey, how did it go? Tell me all about your day. They're not going to feel threatened at all. Now, if your ex has an anxious attachment when you come home in that exact same scenario, they're going to be completely overbearing. They're going to be asking you a million questions and they're going to be jumping to conclusions even quicker and maybe even verbalizing those conclusions. So who did you meet? Did he buy you a drink? What's up with that? You know, they'll get a little angry. An ex with an avoidant attachment, on the other hand, won't say anything when you come home. You'll think everything's fine, but it will sit and stew beneath the surface until finally, when you get into a fight a week down the road, he finally brings it up and accuses you of doing something that really you didn't do. Now, here's the question that we need to answer. Why is it even important for you to understand what type of attachment your ex is, and is it even possible to change that attachment? Well, it's pretty important for you to understand what type of attachment style your ex is because it will show you how you need to approach them when you're actually trying to attempt to get them back. It will show you the types of conversations that they need, the types of things that they will need in a relationship if you do get them back. But I think we're missing the boat here on trying to change your ex's attachment style because, believe it or not, you have an attachment style yourself. So here's what you need to know. If your ex is a certain attachment style, you also need to understand what attachment style you are. Now, why is this an important factor to understand? Well, believe it or not, psychologists have determined that anxious attachments and avoidant attachments are often attracted to one another. And we can actually back this up because when we look at the breakups throughout our private Facebook group or throughout our coaching clients, we find that more often than not, one of the members of that relationship is an anxious or an avoidant attachment, which often does not really yield great results, hence the breakup. But there's also something really cool psychologists found as well. You see, believe it or not, when an anxious or avoidant attachment enters into a relationship with someone with a secure attachment style, they actually begin to mirror some of that secure behavior. So it's sort of a case of follow the leader. If you are a secure attachment and your ex is an anxious or avoidant attachment, they're more likely to be more secure in the relationship just by you being secure. So that's why I think it's important for you to understand your type of attachment. Maybe you're already secure, that's great, but maybe you're not. And chances are you're not. So how can you really determine what type of attachment you are? Is there some sort of test that you can use? Well, actually, yes, there is a kind of test or a litmus test that you can use. In the 70s, Mary Ainsworth did what she called the strange experiment situation. Essentially, what she did is she had parents bring their kids in and performed a series of tests on the kids to determine what type of attachment style they were. Here is how the experiment worked. A mother would bring her 8-month to 15-month-old toddler into Mary Ainsworth. She'd then put the mother and the toddler in a room with a stranger. The mother and the toddler would play together for 15 minutes and then the mother would leave. Now, depending on how the child reacted, you could tell what type of attachment style they had. A child with a secure attachment would cry immediately for about 15 minutes and then they'd start playing again like nothing was wrong. Then the mother would come back and she would be greeted with welcome arms. All was right in the world. A child with the anxious attachment would often cry the entire time the mother was gone. And then when the mother would return, the mother would have a hard time calming that child down. A child with the avoidant attachment style would ignore the stranger throughout the entirety of the time the mother was gone, and then would ignore the mother the second she came back. And this is where I would like to talk about the fourth attachment style, the disorganized attachment. A child with the disorganized attachment would run and hide after the mother would leave and still be hiding when the mother would return. Now, why would they do this? Well, it was determined that these parents had abused these toddlers, and so their fight or flight mechanism kicks in and they choose flight. The problem is they've got nowhere safe to run, so they hide from not only the stranger, but from the parent as well. So here's the litmus test that you can use to figure out what type of attachment style your ex is. What was their childhood like? How did their parents treat them? What kind of upbringing did they have? You can use these clues to make certain assumptions. Maybe they're not accurate, but to your best knowledge, make these assumptions and operate accordingly. But I suppose we still haven't answered the question, can you change someone's attachment style to being secure if it's not secure? Well, I've already alluded to the answer already, but let me leave you with this. Someone who wants to change their attachment style must do so from within. They have to want to do it. Most of the time, the people I work with and the people I've seen don't want to change their attachment style, especially when it comes to their exes. Their exes aren't willing to do that. So it's up to you to lead by example. If you understand that you're an avoidant attachment or you're an insecure or anxious attachment, maybe work on yourself to become more secure. Become ungettable, because if you really think about it, when I talk about being ungettable, it's really teaching you how to be a secure attachment. Lead the way so that if your ex does come back to you, he has a North Star, something to aspire to, someone to lead the way. Hey, thanks so much for getting to the end of this video. Again, if you haven't already and you're interested in getting your ex back, the first thing you should always do is determine what kind of chance you have of getting them back. And for that, we put together a special quiz for you. Basically, look in the description link below this YouTube video, click on that link, it will take you to the quiz where we'll ask you a bunch of questions and determine what kind of chance you have of getting your ex back approximately.